Trying to record from my watch.
Okay, Erev Tov. So there are many mitzvot which are discussed in our parasha this week, as you all know. In fact, tomorrow I'll be talking about tomorrow morning in the morning learning program. I'll be speaking in place of Rabbi Manning, talking about the connection between Yitro and Mishpatim. The title of the shiur is From Revelation to Legislation. So everybody's invited to come tomorrow morning, hear more about that. But within that list of many mitzvot, so one of the mitzvot that is referenced and then is discussed amongst others is Shabbat. Shabbat, which we talk about a number of places in the Torah. So I thought we could talk about some of the shaylas which come. There are many shaylas, of course, which come on Shabbat and on new questions all the time. The seventh volume of Living the Halachic Process, one of the Eretz Chemda's collection of shuts written by Rabbi Daniel Mann, has just come out. So I thought we'd look at some of the questions there he addresses regarding Shabbat. So one of them is quite interesting. This is definitely a question they did not have for many generations. The shayla is entitled LED shoes for children on Shabbat. So you may have seen these. Sometimes you have these shoes that have lights, and when you walk on the floor, the shoes light up. Apparently it's quite cool. The kids like them. So the question is, on Shabbat, may a child wear shoes that have lights, LED in the soles that light up when he walks? Right? Like I said, all the time new things are coming up. So it's quite an interesting question. He analyzes some of the basic principles that we know of Hilchot Shabbat in order to get to this. The first question is, the first thing whenever we have a shayla like this is, so again, how does it work? You have an LED light inside the shoe, or at the bottom of the shoe, whatever it is, and when you walk, every time you take a step, the shoe lights up. Okay, so we're dealing with an LED light. So our first question is, what is the prohibition? What is the essentially you're turning on a light. So when the question of electricity first came up, and the old incandescent light bulbs, which are barely in circulation nowadays, but those were just about everybody agrees that is an isur d'oraita of turning on a light bulb on Shabbat. It's an isur of electricity. It's an isur of lighting fire, of havara. Because of the way that those bulbs work, essentially you have a piece of metal that becomes very hot, and that is what causes the light to go on. The truth is that because of that, there's a big misconception nowadays. And if you ask people, what is the problem? What is the issue of operating electricity? Right? Everybody agrees that to turn on electricity, to operate electrical things, again, all other things being equal, on Shabbat, would be a prohibition. What's the prohibition? So if you walk, even amongst knowledgeable people, many people will tell you it's havara. You're lighting a fire. Electricity is a fire. That is completely incorrect. Certainly with most of the circuits and most of the devices that we have nowadays. But where that comes from, that misconception comes from, is because the old incandescent light bulbs, that was the issur of havara. So in many of the old shuvot, that's what it says, and that's kind of what people go along with. Nowadays, it's probably something else. But in any event, no, they don't have an incandescent bulb.
It's not battery inside to power the lights. It's your motion. When you walk, I
think so. I don't know exactly the way it works, but essentially it says that it has an LED. The question is, they have lights in the soles that light up when you walk.
Usually it doesn't require power, energy.
Yeah.
Usually a solar battery.
Yeah.
Or some other.
But maybe because of the motion. Again, I don't know exactly. But again, the truth is that with LEDs, I mean, the way they work is that it's going to, as well, from LED light bulbs will last for a very long time before you have to replace them. In any event, without getting into all the technicalities and all the details now, but most poskim would agree that operating an LED light is going to be in isur d'Rabbanan. Okay, exactly what the isur d'Rabbanan is, we can talk about it, we can discuss. It might be related to molid, it might be related to metaken mana, makeb patish, might be related to avdim d'chol, many different things. But we assume it's an isur d'Rabbanan. So now the question is like this: if the shoes are new, and the child is getting very excited every time he walks around or runs around. Kids don't walk, they just run everywhere, right? But if he's every time he's running, that the light, so the shoe is going to light up. So that means that with every step you're taking, you intend for the lights to go on. It's not just, it doesn't happen to be a byproduct, but it's something that you want. So that's clearly going to be a prohibition. What if a little bit later, the shoes he's already used to the shoes, they just happen to be the only shoes you have, they happen to light up. But you're not necessarily interested or excited about the fact that every time you walk, the shoes light up. It's just what they do. There's no off button, right? You can't disable that. So then we would say, okay, now we enter the realm of Eino Mitkaven. This is something that you're not intending to do. You're not intending to perform the action every time you walk. You're intending to walk. And we know that Eino Mitkaven is not going to be a prohibition, except for one specific case, which unfortunately is our case, right? Which is the case of psik reisha, where we say, like I say, this is quite a niche question, but the principles that are required to answer it are very much across the board. So the principle of psik reisha, which is, if I do an action which I don't, and as a result of my action, a malacha or a forbidden outcome is going to occur, I don't intend to perform that, but it's definitely going to happen. So once we say it's definitely going to happen every time, that's called a psik reisha. I can't say, oh, I didn't want to, I didn't know. You knew, even though it wasn't your intent, and that is a psik reisha. So the question in our case is this: since the forbidden outcome is not a melacha d'oraita, but it is probably at most an isur d'rabanan, so do we say that when you perform an act you don't intend to, but it's a psik reisha and an isur d'rabanan, is that still going to be forbidden on Shabbat? And the answer is machloket. Thank you. Right, the same machloket. This is a machloket between, we have the Trumat Hadesh and we have the Magen Avraham, who is machmir. But generally speaking, Ashkenazim are going to be, at least Ashkenazim are going to be machmir on this point. Now there are poskim who accept the psik reisha d'Rabbanan. We could add here to the fact also that, again, if you have no interest in the result, I mean, we could stand here for hours, stand here for weeks talking about the parameters of psik reisha, which we're not going to do. But when we say the psik reisha de lo nichala, meaning it's certainly going to be, the outcome is going to happen, but I'm not interested in the result at all. Meaning, not only do I not intend to create that result, but when the result happens, I don't get any benefit from it. Right? The classic example that's brought is if you go and you wash your hands out, you're washing your hands outside, you're washing your hands over the grass. You can't pour water over the grass. You're watering the grass on Shabbat. If it's your garden and you're going to get, again, my intent right now is not to water the grass, but I'm getting benefit from the fact that it's going to happen, and certainly will take place. That is a psik reisha d'nichalei. If it's not my garden, I don't care, I'm not interested. Right? So that could be a psik reisha de lo nichalei. So he suggests, the following: if my intent when I'm walking in the shoes is to walk, it's not necessarily to light up the lights. I get no benefit necessarily from the fact, I get nothing out of the fact that the lights go on. So we could say that we're dealing with a psik reisha de lo nichalei d'Rabbanan. So again, under normal circumstances, even with all of that, we'd still say forbidden. But again, there is some discussion in the poskim, and there are those that are about it, and certainly if you have other mitigating factors. So the conclusion here, I'll read it to you. This is from Eretz Chaim, The Living a Halachic Process, Volume 7. He says like this. He says, many are stringent despite the multiple grounds for leniency that we've discussed. In cases in which refraining from the man's particular hardship, then it is quite accepted to be lenient. So if an adult were to ask about wearing the LED shoes you describe, an adult would probably prefer that don't go on, right? So he says we would not allow him to do so in the absence of a special need, but the strict ruling wouldn't be a definite one if he didn't care all about the lights. Now, if it comes to a child, certainly a young child, certainly if he's doing chinuch, so here we can add to the mix the fact the child himself is not necessarily obligated in keeping the rules of Shabbat. The parents are obligated in din of chinuch. So they wouldn't have to necessarily stop him from wearing the shoes, but to go and put them on for him, that might be a little bit more difficult. So the conclusion is like this regarding this question. It says we'll emphasize that despite all the technical grounds for leniency, it's very much not in the spirit of Shabbat to have a child wear such shoes, and therefore generally should not be done. That being said, if a one-time unique situation arises in which these are the only shoes the small child is able to wear, he's lost all the others, he can't find them, whatever, and the child doesn't think about activating the lights, it's possible to combine the different indications for leniency to allow him to wear such shoes, and in that case, even if necessary, to put them on. Okay, so that's that question about the shoes. I just think it's interesting looking at the different parameters and different principles that come together in terms of electricity on Shabbat, in terms of psik reisha d'Rabbanan, psik reisha de lo nichalei, etc. So the bottom line is, if you have shoes that light up when you walk them, get a different pair for Shabbat. But okay, that is that question. Let's look at another question. A few more minutes, and maybe we won't finish this. But another question he brings here relating to Shabbat and Yom Tov is about sending packages. We discussed a similar thing in the past, but the question is like this. The questioner says, I often send packages with UPS, right? And the way it works is that you arrange for them, they come, they pick up the package from your house, you have to sign for it or whatever. And he says, may I have UPS do a pickup on Shabbat or Yom Tov if all of the arrangements are completed before Shabbat and they take the package without any involvement, right? Obviously, if they come to take the package and you have to sign there and then, so signing would be writing, would be a malacha, that's something you can't do. The question is, if you've arranged everything before and you leave the package and they're coming on Shabbat, would that be permitted? The assumption behind the question is that the UPS delivery men and the people, etc., are not Jewish. Because if they're Jewish and they're coming and they're performing malacha on your behalf or whatever, that certainly would not be allowed. Would it be allowed if they're not Jewish? So there are two parameters here to this question. One is whether somebody else is allowed to perform malacha on my behalf, okay, somebody who's not Jewish, and how do I define whether the malacha is on my behalf? Do I define it they're coming and they're doing it for me because I want to send the package, or do I define it as they're coming to do their job and therefore they're doing it for them because they want to get paid their salary? So it's going to depend on how things are set up and what kind of parameters. That's going to be one element of the question. A second element of the question will be even if that is permitted in that way, meaning if we get to the conclusion that they're not performing malacha for me or they're doing it in a permitted way, all other things being equal, all other things are not equal because we have here a case of maritime. There's a question of if they're coming to my house on Shabbat to pick up the package, even if I've arranged it in a certain way, maybe that is still going to be a problem. So I'll just say he starts off here discussing again what we said. If a non-Jew comes along to do malacha, this is the principle. If a non-Jew performs malacha on behalf of a Jew on Shabbat, that is forbidden. Again, it's not forbidden for the non-Jew can do whatever he wants. He's not allowed to keep Shabbat. But from my perspective, if he's doing it for me, I'm not allowed to ask him to do it. I'm not allowed to benefit from it, right? That's if he is doing it for. That's if he's doing it for me. If he's doing it, what's called a data de nafshei avid, he's doing it for his own purposes. Okay, then that is permitted. So how do we determine whether it's for me or whether it's for his own purposes? If I hire somebody, a cleaner or something, or whatever it is, and the non-Jew is performing malacha. So generally speaking, and there are many seifim and simanim in Shulchan Aruch that talk about this, it gets quite complicated. But we say like this: if he's being paid by the hour, if he's being paid by the time that he does it, so whatever time he invests on Shabbat doing that, that's going to be a problem. So he's doing it for me on Shabbat. But if he's paid for the job, and if he's paid for the job, whatever it is, and he can do the job theoretically whenever he wants, and he chooses to do the job on Shabbat or on Saturday, he could have done it on Sunday, he could have done it on Friday, he could have done it right whenever. So then it's his problem that it's not a problem. It's fine that he's doing it then. So the question is going to be how it's set up when if there is a set time that for delivery, and that time is only the window that I have to choose for them to come and pick up the package, and that is only on Shabbat, so then that's going to be a problem.
If you seek to send a parcel on a Sunday,
yes,
then obviously that's fine. But what about if you do it on a Friday?
Yeah,
increasing the probability that they'll pick it up on Shabbat.
That's a good question. We'll have to talk about it tomorrow.